Imagine More Success radio show is the all about you show with successful entrepreneurs and business experts sharing their stories and powerful takeaways while providing you with the tips, tools, tactics, and a free weekly gift to help you thrive. Your hosts for the Imagine More Success radio show are the best-selling authors Cindy Hendricks, a certified business consultant, and Thomas Hydes, a certified world-class public speaking coach. Check out the Imagine More Success radio show at imaginemoresuccess.net because now is the time to realize your dreams and to imagine more success. Welcome to the Imagine More Success show with Cindy and Thomas. We are so glad that you could join us today. If you're listening in the U.S., you may still be waiting to find out who the president is, and if you're listening in the rest of the world, you may still be waiting to find out who the U.S. president is as well. We're excited that you could join us today because we've got a really fun show for you, and we've got a show that's going to be, I think, very enlightening. The entire series of shows that we've been doing, really the bulk of this year, have been around helping your business to streamline or to grow or to find more clients or to create more income or to generate more revenue, because that is a message that you probably need to be hearing right now. We want to bring some hope. We want to bring some really great outcomes for you. So we're going to continue that with our show today as we talk about profit optimization and how you can begin to utilize technology and automation to ensure your business success.
Well, that's really the name of the game in this world today, is keep those profits up and to get on with it with the technology age, right?
Absolutely. You know, that's a place that really, if you didn't embrace it before, you may find yourself having to do that. A lot of traditional businesses have found themselves having to kind of play catch up, specifically since February and March. And we're going to do some kind of deep diving today into some really cool automations for you, especially if you find yourself in a business where you're doing a lot of one-on-one work as well. So today we're going to have a really fun guest on. We've got Melanie McSally. She is a profit optimization and technology expert. She's actually from one of my favorite cities in the country, Cindy, Boston. Have you been there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, big fan. I'm a big fan of the town. I lived there for several years. It's a great place.
So you know about Gloucester then?
Yeah, more than I should. Melanie's pretty awesome. She graduated top of her class in engineering school and has her master's degree in engineering management and holds a number of certifications. And just last year, she actually made a huge switch, created her own business. She's one of the leading authorities, again, on streamlining businesses to maximize profits. And we're going to be talking about how you can begin to learn from her, how you can navigate some politics, which seems very timely, accomplish the goals, and become an accomplished and respected leader in your own field. You know, she's done a lot of work with nonprofits as well. And in addition to that, she's also a competitive triathlete, which I am completely impressed by. We want to go ahead and welcome her to the show. Melanie McSally, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This is such an amazing platform you two have built here, and I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Oh, we're glad to have you.
Thanks so much. And we sure enjoy having a good time while sharing everyone's expertise and learning ourselves about all you wonderful people that we bring in.
Yeah.
Melanie,
what a fun job, right?
Seriously. Melanie, as an overall kind of concept of automating and bringing new technologies into your business, tell me what that means for the business owner who's listening today.
That's a great question. So one of my big missions in life is to really show business owners that that automation, technology in general, doesn't have to be out of reach. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to take you a lot of time to put in place.
And it doesn't have to be painful.
Exactly. And so our goal is really to help entrepreneurs. So we really focus on the brand new business owners up until they're really making that six figures, right? All the way from 0 to 60, to show that your technology can be proportional in dollars to where you are in business. That way, if you're not making any money, it doesn't have to cost you millions to put it in place. And And what we like to tell people is that you never know when the Oprah effect is going to happen. And so you always want to be prepared for that success. And you want to have this I'm ready for success mindset, because if you're thinking about I'll do it when, then you're putting off your success into the future, and the future is always in the future.
And tell me, what exactly is the Oprah effect?
The Oprah effect is basically when success knocks on your door and says, I'm ready to work with you. I'm ready to learn from your expertise, to build my business in only a way that you can help me do. It's really, that effect of just because somebody mentioned you, now there's millions of people that want to work with you.
So it's
Millions.
as if someone finds themselves on Oprah's program and then they become literally that overnight success.
Exactly.
Beautiful. For the
Mhm.
average person, I think, who is starting a business, especially this year, where probably a lot of people have been forced to start their own business, how do you think they're kind of feeling right now as far as trying to integrate this technology?
Well, I think you're going to find yourselves in one of two camps. You're either going to be looking at the world as an opportunity, right? Oh, I'm at home. I get to spend time with my family. I get quiet time to innovate. I get focus time. All of these great positive ways to look at yourself and your business. Even if you find yourself unemployed, you might be looking at it as an opportunity to create something new, to do that thing that you've never had time to do before. Or you might be in the camp where you're not sure of the path forward, and you just need that little nudge to say, hey, you have a genius that only you have, and it needs to be shared. So let's use this time as an opportunity to put that out into the world.
Let's start with some of the overall concepts of the technology that you offer and that you assist people with. Tell us basically kind of the categories of technology that's available to the small business owner, and where you serve your guests or your clients most.
Sure. So we focus on automation first. So we focus on really allowing you to focus on what you're good at and let the technology handle the rest. So I like to say that success is the intersection between knowing and doing, and you know, and the automation does.
Oh, okay, great.
And
Kind of
so,
replicating yourself then rather than
yeah,
doing everything yourself.
exactly. Um, and so what you really want to think about, and this is really a hard concept for people. It was definitely one that I faced in my own business. Is what what are the things that only I can do? And like really take a serious look at that, because I recently went through a growth spurt where I really had to hire out for me, right? For what my genius is, because I needed to scale what I specifically do within my own business. And I couldn't do that all by myself. There was only so many hours in the day. And so it's really hard to sort of let go of the reins of something you think that only you can do. But when you look at it as an opportunity to automate it or to delegate it, then that's when your business really goes 10x or 100x and goes to that next level of being able to serve more people and make a bigger impact. And so everybody sort of needs certain things in business, right? You need to be able to communicate to the world who you are and what you do. You need to be able to capture prospects or leads, and you need to be able to convert them as well as follow up with them and engage with them. And so those are easy things to automate, and we're actually working on automating the creation of that automation, so that we can scale and help even more businesses ourselves.
Oh,
So that's really where we focus on on the automation, but at the end of the day, we want to be a one-stop shop. So if there are other things that people need in the technology world, then we will talk about whether or not it makes sense for us to serve those needs.
So to give our listeners some ideas of how they can automate, maybe they would create courses around their expertise so they could just sell the courses in not their own time, or write books to sell or to give with the courses and things like that. Is that not the concept that you're looking at?
So yes, that's part of it. So part of it is automating the delivery of your expertise, and part of it is automating the processes for you generating revenue in your own business. So if you think about your ideal client and what it takes for you to work with that ideal client. So let's take your radio show, for instance. You need guests for your radio show. Am I right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So let's say I just went through the process. So you qualify these guests, right? You make sure that they're a good fit for your radio show.
Yes.
And so you have a questionnaire, right? Fill out these questions, and that will tell us whether or not you're a good fit for our show. And also we'll give you a little bit about us so you can determine if it's a good fit for you. Does that sound about accurate?
That sounds right.
Okay. And so then if you ask these questions in such a way that the answer is always yes if, like either yes or no questions or drop down answers, or this is an easy, if they answer it this way, that automatically weeds them out kind of situation, then you can effectively automate your entire onboarding process. You send a link, they fill out the questionnaire, a computer makes a determination whether they're a good fit or not. If they're not, it puts them into a bucket that maybe a human can review if you want to. Otherwise, it sends them notifications to say, hey, I'm sorry you weren't a good fit, or yes, you were a good fit, here's the next step. Here's how, and you guys sent a video on how to use Skype and all that stuff, so you can put all of that in this automation. And you have effectively automated your onboarding process.
See,
Wow.
Thomas, we automated it and we didn't even know it.
Exactly. And it sounds like there's more that we can do as well, because, this is a great example. I think that more than likely there's things that you would often assume are something that has to be done by human beings, like choosing a guest. I didn't think about putting in basically like multiple choice questions, and based upon those results, making a predetermined concept of who should be on the show. That never occurred to me. I would have never thought to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, the easy weed to determine whether or not you can automate it or not is if you can do it twice or more, you can automate it.
Oh, okay, cool.
Well, when I was going through my management training, Melanie, one of the hardest things for me to learn, and one of the hardest things for me to teach managers to learn, was delegation. Nobody likes to give up their special work that they enjoy doing, I think, and losing that control button. But once you learn it, and like you're saying, once you get into the automation roadway, you're really on a great path to free up time to be able to do things that you can do to improve your life and your business.
Yeah. I mean, what's that quote? You live life in forward, but you learn in reverse.
So true. And a big part of your mission, actually, Melanie McSally, who's joined us today, her mission is to show people there's a better way. If you want to continue to learn how automation can affect your life and your business in a very positive way, and you can free up some more spare time and generate more revenue, do stick around. We're going to come back in just a couple of minutes. We're going to continue the conversation. And if you'd like to listen to some of our past shows where every single week you get a free weekly gift, check out imaginemoresuccess.net, and you can find the past episodes there. So do stick around. for sticking around with the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We are back right now with Melanie McSally, who is the Boston-born and raised profit optimization and technology expert. Melanie, we talked a little bit about how automation can actually positively affect small businesses. And we want to talk a little bit more about how you actually got involved with this and how this ended up really speaking to you.
Sure. So, like most stories, I think with entrepreneurs, I started out, I guess you could say tragedy. I don't like to look at it that way. But when I was young, I was bullied, which is, all too common these days, unfortunately. But I grew up an Irish Catholic, and so we were taught to not really worry or speak about our problems, but sort of just focus on our blessings in life. And so I never really told anybody. I just kind of dealt with it. And the way I dealt with it was to escape, to sort of create these imaginary worlds for myself where I could live in what could be rather than what was. And so I lived there, and I spent a lot of time there, and these escapes were not just in my mind, but I played a lot of sports, and I did a lot of exploring outside in the countryside, and things like that, and I spent so much time doing this that I almost flunked out of high school, and so I had to have like a moment with my mom where I was like, well, I'm almost done with school. I'm going to make it. I might be last in my class, but I'm going to make it. And then I'm going to be done. This will be the finish line. I can, sort of check off that obligation to my parents that I've graduated high school and move on with my life. And my mother, who, is wife of a retired Navy officer and rose to be the vice president of 5 companies all at the same time, was
Wow.
like, yeah, exactly. She was like, no, I don't think so. She was like, no daughter of mine is not going to college. She's like, I don't care what you do. I don't care where you go. I don't care for how long, but you will go and you will graduate and you will like it.
That's pretty funny, actually.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'll show you. I'll just go to the funnest school possible. And so I went to Johnson & Wales and I studied pastry arts.
Cool. Did you, the Johnson & Wales in Rhode Island? Is that where you went?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. And when I got there, I was like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I really just came here to spite my mom. And so, I did like baking and all, but I really didn't know how. And so I thought, oh, I'll join the cake decorating club, and that will teach me everything I need to know to get through school. That joining the cake decorating club became this opportunity for me because I ended up being able to cook in Julia Child's kitchen, and I actually ended up getting a job interview just volunteering at an event, and that turned into me becoming the youngest ever pastry chef in Rhode Island for this really prestigious country club. And so all my classmates were like, how do you do it? You must be this amazing baker. And I was like, yeah, if you only knew. And
what was the secret?
Right? And so I was like, it just kind of opened perspective for me and just made me realize that you get taught these things based on your experiences, right? Your glasses become rose-colored, if you will, based on your experiences in life. And I that was my first step into realizing you can make a better way for yourself, no matter what the situation is. And so I realized that baking wasn't for me, obviously. And so I went into engineering, and I also, became this competitive athlete, and I did all this personal growth work, and all these different areas of my life sort of all contributed to me having just this a range of skills and expertise, and thinking to myself, how am I going to use all these skills? And so I just decided I'm going to make it my mission to show people there's a better way, and just let them decide what that means to them.
I think that's a really great lesson for a lot of people who are listening today. Sometimes people, I think, have a feeling that so many of their skills are so disparate, or that they don't really know how they're going to utilize them. And putting some time and effort, maybe having some mentorship, having some time with a mastermind, really can make a big difference and show them a very unique way to kind of package their skills in a way they didn't think of before.
Exactly.
Well, and that's where a good coach comes in, or consultant, where they can see the blind spots. Because I think that between your mother and your spiteful decision to go into baking, the path you took to get to where you are is unique, but so powerful. Now, are you still baking?
I do it occasionally. I'm the designated baker for all the holidays.
Absolutely. So let's get back to automation a little bit here. What are the kind of the categories of automation that are available to someone who comes to you? What's available to them?
Well, like I said earlier, we're actually working on this new series of products that allows us to automate the creation of automation. I like to say it's automating the automation. And what we're doing is we're taking those first steps in business that every business needs, like if you take the sales funnel and you break that down into steps in a workflow, we're trying to automate the creation of those steps for businesses so that we can make it really affordable, like less than $100.
Wow.
Exactly, because I really want to show people that technology doesn't have to be expensive. Like let's disrupt these big, huge companies that say that you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on technology, because you really don't.
Well, and sometimes the expensive technology is just too difficult to learn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, like engineers are right up there with doctors and lawyers on how much they charge by the hour. And this is across the board, right? And so, I'm just like them. I can't really, like charge peanuts for what I do, because at the end of the day, I have to pay all of my staff and everything too. But if we can automate the creation of these steps that everybody does, and they all do in the exact same way, and we just put in variables for things that we want to customize, then we can make it super affordable, because now we're not doing it anymore. Computers are doing it for us.
That's fascinating. And do you offer kind of the three-tier system where people can kind of do it for themselves, or they can do it with you, or do it for you? Is that a part of what you offer?
Yeah, so when I started my business, it was really a big case study. I came from Harvard, so we're big on case studies. Mm-hmm. And so it was really a big case study of learning what people need. When I actually got into entrepreneurship, I was going to create an app like everybody in the world. I was going to create an app. And I was having this conversation with somebody about what the features would be. And I said, I really want this app to go global. I really think, everybody in the world could use this app. And they said to me, well, how do you know? Like, have you met everybody in the world? And it really sort of was this moment for me of, when you are from Boston, you are really in a bubble as far as your perspective on the world.
Yes, I would agree with that 100%.
And so in order for me to really, truly understand how I can serve on a global scale, I had to physically get out in the world and serve on a global scale. And so for my first year, I only did done for you services because I really wanted to customize everything and learn from people as to like what their real pain points were, what they were dealing with as new business owners and small business owners, and that's, and now I'm at the phase where I'm creating the automation to really scale those things. But I spent a good year and a half just doing done for you. So that's, where our bread and butter started from.
And I think that's really great advice for anyone who is beginning a new task or is trying to carve their own space. Really, the idea of taking your clients on face-to-face, one-on-one, maybe doing a little bit more than you originally would like to do so that you could scale it. But doing that, that's really your market research, right? That's really instead of hiring a firm to go out and poll people, ask questions or whatever, you get a lot of real world experience. And I think that's invaluable. And did you find that was true for you then?
Yeah, I mean, not only was I learning from them, but I was making money. So,
Yeah.
like a lot of people, they think, oh, I have to create these courses, I have to create these passive income streams, but they don't really know what people need. And so they're creating before they're selling. And then they're having a hard time selling it because what they created might not be what the market needs. And so by doing it in reverse, it seems counterintuitive, but in the long run, you're actually going to make more money and have a better retention rate because your clients are going to love you for what you've done for them, and they're going to become your biggest champions. So 90% of all of my business is referrals at this point.
That's an incredible statistic. I mean, that really says a lot. And most businesses wish that they had that, because that is that's really and truly where the money lies, and the potential to grow your business. That's incredible. So you spent some time also writing and delivering courses for Harvard. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I spent almost a decade at Harvard. I started as an engineer there. Fun fact, they hired me because I went to school at a cooking school.
Oh, cool.
I think they thought I was going to bring desserts to work every day. But I spent nearly a decade there, and I worked my way up the ladder from boots on the ground all the way to executive. And Harvard went through a couple of internal mergers while I was there, where they're very decentralized, right? They have a number of professional schools in addition to their undergrad school, and each school had its own IT department. And they really wanted to take their central IT department and broaden it to serve all the professional schools, so that they could take common things like single sign-on or login, passwords, email, calendar, things like that, and make it universal to the entire university so that they could streamline things like booking meetings with people. And so the two largest departments, the School of Faculty of Arts and Sciences and the Central IT Department, did a merger. And when they did that, they decided to create this thing known as the Harvard IT Academy. And the academy was meant for all of the IT employees, and there's over 700 of them last I heard, to give them. They started with T profession education, so that's going broad as well as deep in your specific lane.
Melanie,
and then they made it
back to finish up the story in our next segment. We do have to take a short break. If you will stick around with us, we're going to be back with Melanie McSally. We're going to continue the conversation around automation and how it can make a difference in your business and in your life. Please stay tuned. You're back on the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. Thank you for sticking with us today. We're continuing our conversation with Melanie McSally, who is one of the country's leading authorities on streamlining businesses to maximize profits. In our previous segment, we were just talking about her ways of not just automating, but how she actually helped Harvard University to move to a more, I'd say, competitive and streamlined way of dealing with their own IT issues. So, Melanie, I think if you're helping Harvard University to streamline their IT department, that you could help someone with some pretty basic automations as they're beginning their business. What does that kind of look like? Take us through maybe a story of how you helped a person, who was kind of struggling in that first part of automation.
Sure. Yeah. So, Harvard is really big and complex. And so people might not think that I can relate to small business, but I'll give you a story of an example of a single person who was going to an event, and she was a public speaker, and she was going to sell some products from stage. But normally when you do that, you have people in the back of the room who can answer questions for you and run credit cards and give these people that are looking to purchase your books or your products or what have you, they can really take care of that while you're continuing to educate and serve and sell from the front of the room. And this person was going to an event, and the event was not going to have any support. And so she was really nervous. She wasn't sure what she was going to do. And this girl speaks on optimizing your Instagram. So she always sells out her rooms. And so she was expecting about 400 or 500 people in the room. And so she was really nervous about how she was going to handle this. And I said, well, why don't we just create for you an opt-in direct to shopping cart where people can buy from you right from their phone while they're sitting in their seat. So there's no going to the back of the room. There's no, there's no need for support. And her event was literally the next day. And so overnight we built her this piece of automation. And the next day she used it. She sold from the front of the room. She had record sales. And, it not only allowed her to make money and reduce that stress, but it allowed her to really focus on what she's good at, which is teaching and serving from the front of the room, and not worrying about, how am I going to make money while I'm doing all of this.
And literally, how did that work in that particular scenario?
You mean the logistics of what the people in the room did?
No, as far as your public speaker, what was it that she directed the audience to do?
So she just told them to type in a keyword to 5-digit sequence of numbers. So just text this keyword to this set of numbers, and then it would pop up a URL, and the URL would give them all of the details about what she was selling, as well as a button to buy.
Fantastic. And just like that, she went from needing a staff of, if there's 400 or 500 people in the room, you literally need a staff of maybe 6 to 12 people in order to deal with that number of people who maybe want to speak to her afterwards, and who maybe won't stand in line for a long time, but anyone can kind of jump on their phone in the moment and make a purchase, especially if it's something that really appeals to them. They might not even hear the end of the speech, but they will have made that connection, which is really cool. I think that's a great example. What other kinds of examples of automation and the way that they impact small businesses can you recommend?
Well, I would say that most recently, like during this pandemic, the thing I see the most of people coming to me is two things. One, they needed to pivot. So that was a big one. They had a brick and mortar, or they had, in-person services, and they needed to figure out how to go online. So that was one big thing. And then the next one is not leaving a customer behind, right? So I get a lot of calls that are like, Melanie, I'm going to forget somebody. My business is booming during this pandemic, and I feel like I'm going to forget somebody, or I'm going to forget to do something. And so automating this onboarding process is a big one, like we were talking about earlier with your show and your guests.
Can completely see that. Yeah, I think that's a problem a lot of people would like to have, and not something that's often anticipated when someone is just beginning a business. I mean, you spoke to that earlier. That often comes as a surprise, and that's kind of when there's a kind of a panic that sets in when they realize they're getting so busy they can't really handle everything that they're doing, which is, there's worse problems to have in business, right? I mean, it's not a bad thing.
There is. I actually teach a course on re-engineering the sales process, because if you were to look at it from an engineer's perspective, you would actually build the process out before you started serving your clients, before you started selling, so to speak. Because if you're going out and getting your exposure and you don't have any way of capturing that exposure, then that's wasted time, right? And if you have captured all those leads, but you don't have any way to follow up with them, or you don't have anything to convert them with, then again, they're just going to sit there, and leads do go stale like food. So
It's good. It's a good analogy.
so it's about building out all of your systems and processes before, and which is why, again, I go back to, like, if you work with people one-on-one, that allows you to bring in some income while you're building out all of this stuff. So you don't have to have all of this infrastructure before you even get started.
I really like that too. When you say that you're taking kind of a engineer's perspective on business building, do you find that that also has something to do with personality types, where certain personality types maybe are not necessarily following blueprints as much? Maybe, I don't want to say they're winging it, but maybe they're less structured. Is that where kind of blending these concepts makes a big, I can imagine if the two of them come together, if you're highly creative and then you put a framework together, that's kind of an explosion of potential. Is that what you find?
Yeah, I mean, Clay Christensen once said, like, you're either the creator or you're the doer, but very rarely will you find one person that can serve both lanes. And I think if you take any of the personality type quizzes, they all basically boil down to the same thing. And the doers really get frustrated with the creators, and the creators really get frustrated with the doers. But at the end of the day, you need both skill sets, which is why we always go back to diversity. And, diversity isn't just equity and inclusion, it's also diversity of thought, diversity of ideas, diversity of background for what you bring to the table, and all of this helps you just be better in business.
Yeah, and actually, I just want to make kind of a point here that Clayton Christensen actually passed away this year. So we lost someone who was a real icon in American business and academia. Just kind of, but incredible guy. Glad you brought him up.
That's a real interesting point. I never really thought of it that way. But Thomas and I are so lucky, because we're both creatives and we're both doers.
It's rare. It's rare.
And we don't get in each other's way. We're actually very supportive when we're working, which is pretty interesting to learn that not everybody has both.
Yeah, and I think that that's a really great, a friend of mine actually always talks about this, how important it is that anytime you're working with someone, really understanding them on a very, very deep level, because how not just how you communicate with them and how they communicate with you, but what path that's best to take for them and how to lead them, especially if you're trying to work on a task or anything like that. And Marshall Thurber talks about always focusing on the first 15% of anything that you do, because if you get the first 15% right, the rest of it comes very, very easily. And I can imagine that this is very much the same concept as well, because looking at the business as a system or as something which you engineer rather than as a completed product just gives you that opportunity to get ahead of the game, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't build a house by putting the studs in before the foundation, right?
Yeah.
It just wouldn't stand up. So, um, you know, the creatives are the ones that can see what will be, right? Like what could be. So they're the ones that are the interior designer. They're the one that can create the vision for the house. But at the end of the day, you still need the person who says it needs to be a 12 by 16 room, or we need this much concrete in order to be able to structurally hold this house. And so, um, I too am in both camps, and I don't want to, I don't disparage either one, because you need both. And so, what I like to tell my creatives is have a notebook next to you at all times, because just because you have the idea doesn't mean you have to act on it, but you definitely want to capture it, because it's probably a great idea to be implemented at some point in time.
That's funny you'd say that. Eddie Van Halen said that he used to keep a recorder in the bathroom, because he said every time he left the studio to go to the bathroom, that's when he'd have the idea. So then finally he just left a recorder in there so he could make sure he could always capture whatever it was that he was thinking about. And I think that's a great tip.
Earl Nightingale said the very same thing. Keep that notebook handy.
Yeah, I recently drove across the country, and you always come up with ideas when you literally do not have the ability to write something. And so I just I just hit the button on my phone and asked my phone to text myself. Like, can you text me?
Ah, yes.
Just so I could remember this.
So this is a little, I guess, off topic of the topic of automation today, but tell us a little bit of what's one thing that really stuck out for you that you were surprised by as you made your way across country?
Well, I just did this trip. So there was, I went from Colorado to Florida. And so it's interesting to drive across the country during an election season and seeing, and also during a pandemic, of seeing, all the supporters get out for both sides of the aisle, and then doing it during a pandemic. That was pretty interesting. Also, I will say, let's go back to perspective for a second. When you grow up in New England,
Mm-hmm.
you can do the entire East Coast in 24 hours, right? But then when you go on the West Coast, sometimes it can take you 24 hours just to get out of a state. And
at least feels that way.
and so I have to say, my boredom really sets in if I have not left a state in a day. I'm just like, I'm still in the same state. And it's just all about perspective. I talk to people who are originated from the West Coast, and they're like, you guys have tiny states over there. I can just blow through your states in a day. And yeah, that's the biggest thing. It's just the perspective of driving
of the West.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt that very same thing when I moved out to Las Vegas from the East Coast as well. I remember going through parts where it seemed so barren, so desolate, and to see wide open spaces like that, I think I saw distances over land I had never seen before. It was incredible. Mm-hmm. Just an incredible experience. Well, we're going to continue the conversation in just a couple of minutes. We're on today with Melanie McSally, who is enlightening us with her work around automation, especially for the small business owner. So if you are a small business owner and you are feeling the need to add something to your business, which is going to allow you to take off some of the pressure, take away some of the headaches and some of the stress, you do want to stick around. If you want to listen to some past episodes, go to imaginemoresuccess.net, where you can always pick up your free weekly gift. So do stay with us. to the Imagine More Success radio show with Cindy and Thomas. We're so glad that you could join us today. We've been having a conversation not just about automating your business. We've been all over the map today talking about some really fun things. I think it's great that we have the chance to have kind of lighter conversation because it seems like the tenor of the entire country has been pretty weighty lately. So it's always fun when we can talk with one of our guests and get a little more of a story as well about their lives, which is always very interesting to us. Cindy, I know that we've spent quite a bit of time always, kind of looking at what's available as far as adding technology. And oddly enough, you and I have actually, I think, taken some steps into technology that we weren't necessarily excited about, but it's something that grows on you, right? It takes a little time sometimes.
I was trying just to hire people, and the people that were hired are the ones who developed the technology.
Right, exactly.
I'm into the delegation part.
I think that's great because there's times where, I find myself being great at one thing and then not so great at other things. And sometimes the technology part is the place I'm not so great. I'll have to admit that.
Well, the creative and the doer part is what I find fascinating.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that it's really great to, figure out what camp you're in. And if you need some help, then definitely search out help from the other camp. We talk about diversity on the show. That came up again this show as well, that having a diversified staff, a diversified workforce, a diversified group of people who are helping you to create ideas is only going to lend itself to more innovation and to more creativity and more solutions to the problems that you have.
Well, and I would add one more piece to that. Lose the fear. The fear is what holds so many people back from so many things. And what's really interesting is that I really love visioning what's coming. And then I love getting into the creative. And Thomas, I think you like jumping into the creative after the vision's ready. And then when we get to the doing part, I like you to lead the doing, and then I jump in with the doing.
And then you jump in, yeah, for sure. I think that's a pretty good path to take. So if you're out there and you find yourself in one path or the other, if you're creative or a doer, hey, find somebody to link up with. It's probably a really great idea.
Yes, and lose that fear.
Absolutely. We're going to continue our conversation with Melanie McSally, who is the technology expert and who helps businesses to expand their profits. Melanie, what are some of your techniques for helping businesses right now to expand their profits in a way that maybe the small business owner just doesn't think of?
Well, that's a great question. So, one of the things that people assume is part of, or the only part of profits is basically all the things that go on the balance sheet, right? The technology, the costs, the people, all the things, right, that go on the balance sheet. But what you might not actually think about is all the peripherals. So let's take employees, for example. If you have really hardworking employees that are dedicated to delivering your vision, that know what your vision is, then they are marching in a straight line to where you're trying to go. Now, if they don't know what your vision is, or if they're not aligned, like they don't agree with it, or they're not 100% invested in it, then they might be taking a longer path to executing that vision. And they might not even be walking towards it at all. Because if they don't know what your vision is, how do they know if they're going in the right direction, right? And so having a vision can actually help or hurt your bottom line when it comes to profitability. And in the same token, if you have a bunch of employees that are standing around the water cooler moaning about their boss or the company culture or any number of things that one complains about, what are they not doing? Working.
Yeah. Hey, does this apply
They
to
lost
the,
the vision.
and doesn't this really apply to the individual as well? This doesn't have to be a big company that's experiencing this. This is part of your own personality traits as well, right? There's certain times where for a part of the day, maybe you're the person who's complaining at the water cooler, and it might be you're complaining about yourself. That happens,
Yeah,
right?
right. I mean, let's take the standard entrepreneur who is, by all intensive purposes, a really great innovator, right? And they're probably innovating all day long, and they've probably come up with 10, 20 ideas in the course of the day. Not like new products, services, but just ideas to help in one way or another, or to just do something, right? And so every time they come up with an idea, that takes their focus away from their vision, even if they're just writing it in a notebook.
Oh, and then that taking away from the focus of the vision is kind of like changing tasks on an assembly line. It's very inefficient. Every time you change a task, you find yourself losing focus and losing productivity. Is that kind of the same concept?
Yeah, they say that it takes 15 minutes. Every time you lose focus on whatever it is you're working on and you context switch to something else, you lose 15 minutes. So if you think about every time you change direction in the course of a day and work on something else, you've lost 15 minutes. It adds up after a while.
So now I'm starting to see a bigger value of the automation in that because you're leaving things to your automation to be done, the rest of your day is then not being disrupted multiple times and adding up those 15-minute segments, which by the end of the day, a handful of interruptions can be half of your workday.
Exactly. And if you take the revenue generating processes, like bringing on clients, bringing on guests, converting leads into clients, if you turn those into automation, then the things that are not necessarily immediately producing revenue, those things can be a little bit more lax because you know that you have these processes that are just running without you, regardless of whether you're at the beach or you're working at your computer or whether you're working with a client. Those things are still happening.
And that's a big part of that laptop lifestyle, right? That a lot of people, I think, don't really think is possible. But is it possible more than people think it is?
Oh yeah, I mean, I live it. I like to say I live everywhere and nowhere. Um, I sold my house. I gave away everything I owned, and I set out on the road to be an entrepreneur because I didn't want to have a plan B. I wanted to go all in and see how fast I could become successful. And so I actually don't have a physical home. And yeah, I work wherever I want.
Let me ask you this. What was that transition like on a personal level? How did you feel about that? What was that first step like?
Uh, Hard.
Okay.
Well, I mean, so I really need to write a whole book about this, but there's so many correlations between being an athlete and being an entrepreneur. And so I thankfully was blessed with the fact that I'd already gone through all the hard things an entrepreneur goes through as an athlete. So I already knew that I could do it. And I already knew that it was going to be challenging. And I already knew that how to hurt in order to get to the triumph, right? I already knew how to do all of that stuff
You
because
said
I'm
how
an
to
endurance.
hurt.
Yeah.
Okay,
How to hurt.
explain that. Explain
Well,
that.
so as an athlete, right? Like when you're, even it doesn't matter what your distance is, right? If you're going out and doing something for the first time, you're gonna go through a little bit of pain to receive an reward at the end, right? Like you might walk longer than you did before. You might run longer than you did before. You might cycle longer than you did before.
Sounds
And
like
it's
management to me.
exactly.
Right.
And the same is true in business, right? It's like, you might get a lot of naysayers telling you that you're not good enough, or that you can't make it, or that your idea is stupid, or all these things, and it's gonna hurt inside. And even you're going to have self-doubt inside. But if you know that you've put in the work, you've gone to school, you've studied, you've done personal growth, you've done whatever it is to get you to this point, to give you a genius, and if you can just tap into that and know that you've done the work, then each little step is just that. I mean, it might be a mountain.
It's a little step.
But it's just a little step.
Yeah, I think that's a great message. If you're listening today, what's possible for you is, again, probably significantly greater than you can even imagine right now. Wherever you are, if you have big dreams, it's time to continue to dream them and to make them even bigger, which is I think a beautiful story. And we love to hear stories about people who kind of just take the big jump, make the big risk, and leaving everything behind is pretty cool. Is that why you find yourself kind of crisscrossing the country? Are you just exploring America right now, or are you going to be exploring the rest of the world as well?
Well, initially I wanted to go live in Europe when I first started out, and then I was asked to become a public speaker, and I was given about 50 stages right off the bat. And so
wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't leave the country because I was booked. And in January, I found myself traveling to 9 different countries. And then in March, I was at my parents' house and I didn't leave until September. And I was like, man, I just got to go somewhere, anywhere. And nothing to do with my parents. It was just like being in the same spot.
Sure.
And so I just set out and I went to Texas. So I had never been to Galveston. And so I went to Texas and just explored. And then a friend of mine who's in Colorado was like, hey, can you come here? Because I want to innovate and create. And I think we could do something amazing together. And so I was like, sure, why not? I was in my car. I was not flying. So I was, it was easy for me to just be isolated. And so I went there, and then she sold her house while I was there. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll go back to Florida now. But my plan is, as soon as the borders are open, to go abroad and live abroad for a little while.
That's really cool. And I think that's a very inspirational story. And Melanie, you've actually brought a really cool gift that I want to encourage everyone who's listening to take advantage of today. Please tell us a little bit about your gift and how our listeners can get it.
Well, I talked earlier about how I do this sales automation, re-engineering your sales process masterclass. And you can get that by going to wisetribe.com and just putting your email address in. That's WYZETRIBE.com. But I'm just, spirit of the moment, I'm going to give another gift, because we had talked about earlier, like, how can you assess where you are in business and how can you know what to automate? And so I actually have a survey that if people want to fill out, I'll, give them a few moments of my time to just do a quick assessment of their business and tell them where they are and what they could do quickly to automate. And if they just go to a bit.ly link, that is WYZEOMATE, which is WiseOmate, they can fill out that survey.
Very cool. We want to thank you again, Melanie, for joining us. It's been a real pleasure to have you here today. We hope that you had a chance to learn something about automation and also have a chance to let your imagination run wild, to really figure out what's possible for you and what your dreams are. So we want to encourage you to always consider that, and we want to thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to listen to some past episodes of our show, do go to imaginemoresuccess.net, and to learn some other ways that you can increase the revenue for your business, go to findhiddenmoney.com. And if you'd like to learn how you can start to change your mindset to becoming a millionaire, go to themillionairemindsetcourse.com. And until next time, we want to remind you to always realize your dreams and imagine more success.